Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Body Smart Keeping Runners on the Road series. I'm so excited to be coming to you today to talk about kind of an interesting topic of what do you do to prevent injury while running. So there's a bunch of different things that we can do, and I want to talk a little bit more maybe about what the research would suggest that we do. So what are some of the things you do? I want to see that in the comments down below. I want you to let me know some of the things that you commonly do to make sure that you're preventing injury. So that's a really important part. Nobody wants to be injured. What do we do to help prevent those injuries? And so, yeah, let me know if there's something that your magic bullet. Let me know what that is. But then here we go. Here are my top. Or here are the top 4 things that I hear, I guess, and then I'll give you my top 2. So the biggest thing is people say, oh, take time off running. Stop running and just let your body heal up. The other one is strength training. Another is stretching. And the other is cross training. So from my perspective, there are 2 that way outrank the others. And then the other 2 aren't very helpful and may be harmful. But they're really common in what people do to avoid injury with running. So my number 1 top thing for helping runners stay on the road and avoid injury is cross training. Mentioned that a couple of videos ago, but cross training is super critical. If we can make sure that we keep moving and keep active and keep our metabolic systems churning and fit, but don't do the same activity necessarily every single day, day in and day out, that's going to do so much to help keep us fit, but avoid those overuse problems. The number 2 thing for me is strengthening. We've got to strengthen the muscles that we use for our endurance activities. The endurance activity is not enough. We've got to strengthen beyond the capacity of what we're using them at, so that it's fairly easy for those muscles. If you can imagine, if I go running and I'm using 80% of my glute strength every time I'm running, they're going to fatigue way out. If I'm using 80% of that and I go for 5 miles, by the end of that 5 miles, I'm going to be exhausted in my glutes. Versus if I can get those glutes stronger so that it's only using 60 or 50 or 40%, I'm going to have so much more additional capacity to keep going because I'm putting less load on that tissue, if that makes sense. So strength training is super important. If we can keep our muscles strong that we use for our endurance activities, we're really going to do a lot to prevent and avoid injury. Now, the other 2, interestingly enough, are taking time off of running or stretching. Those are 2 things that I actually rarely, if ever, recommend. And they both have been shown to maybe be harmful in some ways. Taking time off of running isn't always harmful, but doing nothing is harmful. So being sedentary is actually much more harmful than running. So risk of arthritis and other things is a lot higher. But the biggest thing is if I take time off of running, what happens is I wind up getting out of those habits. And so I wind up not being as consistent or regular with my fitness. And then when I get back into it, my risk of injury is a lot higher. So taking time off of running isn't necessarily the best way. It's finding ways to keep running pain-free by either shortening distance, shortening duration, shortening intensity is a big one. Just run slower. It's okay. But doing things to modify it so that you can run pain-free, that's a big, big key. Stretching is the other one. I find that stretching really isn't very helpful. All the research on stretching suggests that it really doesn't do much at all, and actually can be harmful. Stretching pre-event can decrease some of what's called the passive elastic component in our muscles, and can increase our risk for injury because we kind of take that natural springiness out of the muscles and tendons and ligaments that we need to kind of stay bouncy and recover from a misstep or other things like that. So stretching post exercise is okay. I prefer just a really good active warm up and a good active cool down, and only stretch things that really are injured or tight. But remember, with stretching, most of our injuries with running are overuse injuries. So we're overstretching some tissue and overusing it. So why would we want to stretch an overstretched tissue? Does that make sense? We're causing further trauma to an already repeatedly overstretched tissue. So that's a big reason why I'm not a big fan of stretching. And so tightness, again, I'm a big fan of just warming that up slowly, actively, rather than actually stretching it. And the research backs that up, that it actually does increase our risk of injury, especially in more dynamic type exercises. So we have to be careful with stretching, that we don't overstretch, that we do more of a warm up, and movements to end range are okay, active movements to end range, but just a static stretch and hold like we've done for years and years and years is actually not the best way to go about things. So there you go. There are some of the common things that we do for injury recovery or injury prevention, and my top two favorites and maybe my least two favorite. So if you've got any questions about that, I know the stretching one too kind of blows people's mind, but there's actually a lot of research to back that up. If you have any questions, comments about that, let me know. Drop those in the comments down below, and happy to discuss that with people. Yeah, let me know if you've got any other questions about running or injury prevention. Happy to answer those anytime. Thanks so much for joining. And if you want to continue to follow, go ahead and let us know in the comments down below. Say I'm in, and we'll make sure we get you tagged on our other running tips. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day.